The relationship with fans and developers of video games is a special one, and sometimes those fans can have a direct impact on a game's creation. In fact, with all of the following examples, it was the direct involvement of fans that uncovered alternate endings or even completed endings via mods. That's not to say all of the following games needed saving in the conventional sense, but it's thanks to fans that we live in a world where the following endings were preserved in one way or another. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 video game endings that were saved by fans. Number 8, Price Dies. Probably. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, 2011. Given the immense popularity of the Call of Duty franchise, it's honestly shocking that some hidden, discarded content would be uncovered well over a decade after a game's release. But that's what recently happened with 2011's Modern Warfare 3, as modders Yo-Yo One Love and Vlad Loktionov posted a cut post-credit scene revealing Captain Price's original intended fate. The official release ends with Price killing Makarov and then defiantly lighting a cigar while watching Makarov's hanging corpse swinging around in the wind, but the post-credit scene returns to show what happened next. As Price looks at Makarov, a shadowy figure appears in the background and surveys the scene for a few moments before walking off. Price then slumps over and the cigar he's smoking drops to the floor, before we cut to a picture of Price's fallen Operation Kingfish squad. While it's not quite definitive, this ending certainly suggests that Price dies or is in the very least in extremely grim condition. Yet because it ultimately wasn't an official part of the game, it's really just an interesting what-if glimpse at Activision's original plans. All the same, for this ending to be found and preserved so long after the game's release is hugely surprising. Number 7, an actual ending. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, despite being an excellent game, suffered through a rushed development, causing the final release to feature a massively streamlined story and abruptly curtailed ending, much to the disappointment of fans. Shortly after KOTOR 2's release, though, the game's passionate modding community began the Sith Lords Restoration Project, retrieving as much unused content hidden in the game code as possible and reinserting it into the game proper. This included a massively expanded ending, where modders did a frankly miraculous job of reconstituting scenes such as the Exiles party members teaming up to battle Darth Treya and being killed. Though still fundamentally incomplete, it feels so much more fleshed out compared to the almost non-ending that fans originally got. Between this and the mod's other impressive achievements, such as fixing over 500 bugs, it was eventually acknowledged and basically canonized in 2015 by Aspire Media Inc., the company in charge of managing the game today. Number 6, Confronting the Prophet of Truth, Halo 2. Halo 2's abrupt cliffhanger ending famously pissed millions of fans off, leaving them to wait for Halo 3 to see how Master Chief and the Arbiter would take down the Prophet of Truth. This was a result of the game's rushed development, causing massive amounts of content to be cut from the final release, including a much longer ending which actually completed Chief and the Arbiter's quest. This more conclusive ending got far enough for much of the voice dialogue to be recorded and the entire sequence to be storyboarded. And in 2022, YouTuber C3 Sabertooth ambitiously recreated the 30-minute ending using all the available materials. Thankfully, this included the original Halo 2 storyboards graciously provided by Lee R. Wilson, an artist who worked on the game. Sabertooth tirelessly added animations, sound effects, music, and additional dialogue to the storyboards, in turn giving fans a shockingly persuasive account of how Halo 2 was originally intended to end. Number 5, the final boss, It Takes Two. As beloved as It Takes Two is, many players felt that it ended on a bit of a shoulder shrug gameplay-wise, as the final sequence doesn't feature a boss battle and the game basically just ends. But this wasn't always the plan, as a few months after its release, players who gained access to the debug menu discovered a scrapped alternate ending. This 20-minute sequence differs substantially from the ending of the game proper, with Dr. Haycom fusing Cody and May into a heart-shaped avatar as players must collaborate to help their daughter Rose navigate a hellish rendition of their family home. The level also includes a final boss, a shadowy, colossus-like entity which seems to form from Cody and May's vitriol, and which must be defeated to save Rose and beat the game. The pair then confront the Doctor and realize that they've been neglecting Rose amid their many arguments, after which the spell is broken and the rest of the ending plays out as it does in the final game. So for anyone who felt that It Takes Two's ending was lacking a little oomph, this boss fight and decidedly darker tone certainly make it well worth watching, if not playing for yourself. Number 4, the Jacqueline Natla teaser, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, if Eidos Montreal had their way, this alternate ending to Shadow of the Tomb Raider would never have seen the light of day. According to the developers themselves, they accidentally included the wrong ending cutscene in the launch version of the game, and immediately patched it out on release day. This secret ending came to light on launch week when one enterprising player played through the game without patching it first, and ended up seeing a tweaked ending compared to everyone else. Like the official ending, it shows Lara Croft planning her next adventure in Croft Manor, but the key difference is that it lingers for a few moments on a letter from Jacqueline Natla, who longtime Tomb Raider fans will remember as the villain of the very first game in the series. This obviously indicated that the next game would bring a rebooted version of the villain into the fold, though for whatever reason Eidos Montreal decided to scrap this tease. And while the omnipresence of Day 1 patches left the developers thinking that nobody would ever uncover the original ending, hilariously all it took was someone not patching the game to ensure that it saw the light of day. Number 3, Yennefer's Betrayal, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Despite The Witcher 3 being almost an entire decade old now, modders are still discovering new things within the game code as recently as this year, and the latest find is a doozy. It all started when developer CD Projekt Red released a Red Kit back in May, a set of mod tools allowing players to create their own weapons, quests, and so on for the RPG. By this past June, YouTuber X Letalis and modder Glassfish had used these tools to uncover an extended and until now unseen part of The Witcher 3's ending, where Yennefer betrays the Lodge of Sorceresses to Emperor Emir. The ending of the final retail release doesn't have much to say about the Lodge of Sorceresses, but this cut content would have added numerous scenes to the climax, culminating in Yennefer turning on the Sorceresses and ensuring their eventual execution in order to keep Ciri safe. Though the sequence is only partially constructed in the game's files, it was nevertheless fully voice acted, suggesting it was most likely a late cut in the development process. But thanks to these enterprising modders, it's no longer a hush-hush secret. Number 2, Batman doesn't kill the Joker, Batman the video game. Okay, time for a seriously deep cut now with Batman the video game, which was released on the NES in 1989 and loosely based on Tim Burton's Batman film that came out the very same year. We say loosely because the game's official ending takes a savage deviation from the movie. In the film, Batman inadvertently kills the Joker by tethering him to a gargoyle which then falls off the cathedral's roof, eventually dragging the clown prince of crime to his demise. But in the game's original ending, Batman straight up murders the Joker, angrily throwing him over the side of the cathedral to his death in revenge for his parents' murder. Yet many years later, a ROM of the prototype version of the game was dumped online by an unknown source, likely either a collector or someone who worked on it, revealing that the original ending had Batman more fittingly beat the Joker into submission and spare his life. Even with Nintendo being famously litigious regarding privacy, it's neat that this alternate ending was salvaged from the trash heap of history. Number 1, The Avoidable Sacrifice, Fallout 3. Okay, time for something a little bit different now. Fallout 3's original ending pissed off a lot of fans, as it made players pick a character to enter an irradiated control room and activate a water purification system, effectively laying down their life for the greater good. Short of doing nothing and just letting the facility explode, you've got two choices at the end: sacrifice yourself or the Brotherhood of Steel Sarah Lyons. This dramatic choice always felt extremely forced because your companions all have excuses for not doing this themselves, and worst of all is Mutant Forks, who, despite literally being able to withstand the radiation without harm, claims that he doesn't want to interfere with your destiny, whatever the hell that means, even though for him it's literally walking into a room, flicking a button, but for you, it's doing the same thing and dying. Fans loudly called the clumsy lack of logic out immediately following Fallout 3's release, and kicked up enough of a fuss that Bethesda effectively fixed the ending with the Broken Steel DLC, released about 6 months later. This revised ending allowed Fox or any other radiation-immune companion to enter the control room instead, in turn allowing basic common sense to prevail. While there's much debate to be had about fans basically negging developers into reshaping their creative vision post-launch, in the case of Fallout 3, they were probably right to demand an ending that wasn't howlingly patronizing.